Hello, everybody. How are you today? Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's a bright and sunshiny day. Hey, I gotta see if you can see any of my other iPad in here. Because that site, I had to mute it for a sec. So if I go like that, even like this, let's see what I see. Not really, but like this. See what that looks like. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. But I think I can still use the sound, but if not, for the chapter readings, we'll have to use the other site. Or we just say no to the chapter readings. That's what I do. I mean, yeah, chapter readings. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your name, may your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food we need, and forgive us our sins, as we have forgiven those who sin against us. And don't let us yield to temptation, but rescue us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Jehovah, for another beautiful day on your beautiful earth. And thank you for allowing us to wake up today. And thank you for what you did for us in the past, present, and what you will do for us in the future. Jehovah, I have a few friends that really, really, really need your help. The night owl's mother fell yesterday at her the facility she was living in, the nursing home, and they were bringing her to the hospital. Please give her physical and mental strength to get better and get stronger, as well as Keely Cullum's father, Mr. No, that's not his last name. Keely Cullum's father. Um, he was. She told me that he was in the hospital. So, can you give him physical, mental strength to get better, and give Keely and Vicky, Night Owl, physical and mental strength to get through this. And my friend Jenny, she is getting sick a lot again. She told me it's either two things, that it could be the 15th she has an appointment. That's 5 days away. Jehovah, please put your healing hands on Jenny's tummy and just heal her. or soothe her. Please. She's in agony. Getting sick. So she eats and then it all comes up. It's so sad. She's always suffering. Please continue to look after Danielle. Alright, Jehovah, can you continue to look after Brexton, who broke his arm, the Binghams and the Adams family, for the loss of Justin. Continue to look after Tate, who has a heart condition and cancer. Cindy Lee, King Charles, Princess Kate, Jen's friend Shannon, Danielle Fischel, also known as Topanga, all have cancers, different stages and different kinds. Stages is either stage 1, 2, 3, 4. The kinds means breast cancer, lymphoma, sarcoma, all that kind of stuff. Leukemia. Did I say leukemia? Please help them. Give them physical mental strength to beat their cancers. Continue to help Celine Dion, who has stiff person syndrome. When she sang at the Olympics, oh wow, I didn't know what she was singing because it was in French, but it was beautiful. Just to see her up there, I don't care if she has to sit during it. Why not? You could probably belt it out better. Please continue to help her with the pain and the seizures. Continue to help once again Jenny, Christina with her pregnancy. No, with Christina's daughter's pregnancy. Tiffany with her sons, and please give her physical and the strength to take care of Jenny, please. And Robin Taylor with her ailments and family. Miss Dan and daughters, I do not know about how she's doing. Arnie, he needs to pick me up. Vicky girl. I love you, Vicky girl. Vicky girl. And Carol with her tummy as well. Please heal her with Carol's tummy. Please let her mom give her more freedom. Because she can do it. In Jesus' name, amen. And we'll listen to this. And if this becomes a problem, I'm going to have to start reading it. Oh. Then we won't be doing 7 at a time. Or we'll be doing chapter reading on new version. So that's all I can say. I'm going to read that article again, and I'll let you guys know tomorrow what I'm going to do.
Uzziah king in his place for the chapter 22. Then the inhabitants of Jerusalem made his youngest son Ahaziah king in his place. For the marauder band that came with the Arabs to the camp had killed all the older ones. So Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, began to reign as king of Judah. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the granddaughter of Omri. He too walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother became his advisor in acting wickedly. And he kept doing what was bad in Jehovah's eyes, like the house of Ahab, for they became his advisors after the death of his father, to his destruction. He followed their advice and went with Jehoram, the son of King Ahab of Israel, to wage war against King Hazael of Syria at Ramoth Gilead, where the archers wounded Jehoram. He returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds that they had inflicted on him at Ramah when he fought against King Hazael of Syria. Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, the king of Judah, went down to Jezreel to see Jehoram, the son of Ahab, because he had been wounded. But God brought about the downfall of Ahaziah by his coming to Jehoram. And when he came, he went out with Jehoram to meet Jehu, the grandson of Nimshi, whom Jehovah had anointed to do away with the house of Ahab. When Jehu began to execute judgment on the house of Ahab, he found the princes of Judah and the sons of Ahaziah's brothers, ministers of Ahaziah, and he killed them. Then he looked for Ahaziah. They captured him where he was hiding in Samaria, and they brought him to Jehu. Then they put him to death and buried him, for they said, "He is the grandson of Jehoshaphat, who searched for Jehovah with all his heart." There was no one of the house of Ahaziah who had the power to rule the kingdom. When Athaliah, Ahaziah's mother, saw that her son had died, she rose up and destroyed the entire royal line of the house of Judah.
Wow.
However, Jehoshabeath, the daughter of the king, took Jehoash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the sons of the king who were to be put to death. And she put him and his nurse in an inner bedroom. Jehoshabeath, the daughter of King Jehoram, she was the wife of Jehoiada the priest and a sister of Ahaziah, managed to keep him concealed from Athaliah so that she did not put him to death. He remained with them for 6 years at the house of the true God, while Athaliah was ruling over the land. Chapter 23. In the 7th year, Jehoiada acted courageously and made a pact with the chiefs of hundreds, namely Azariah the son of Jeroham, Ishmael the son of Jehohanan, Azariah the son of Obed, Maaseiah the son of Adiah, and Elishaphat the son of Zichri. Then they went throughout Judah and gathered together the Levites from all the cities of Judah and the heads of the paternal houses of Israel. When they came to Jerusalem, the entire congregation made a covenant with the king in the house of the true God. After which he said to them,
"Look, the king's son will reign, just as Jehovah promised concerning the sons of David. This is what you are to do. 1/3 of the priests and of the Levites who will be on duty on the Sabbath will be doorkeepers. Another third will be at the house of the king, and the other third will be at the gate of the foundation, and all the people will be in the courtyards of the house of Jehovah. Do not let anyone enter the house of Jehovah except the priests and the Levites who are ministering. These may enter because they are a holy group, and all the people will keep the obligation to Jehovah. The Levites must surround the king on every side, each with his weapons in hand. Anyone entering the house will be put to death. Stay with the king wherever he goes."
The Levites and all Judah did exactly what Jehoiada the priest had commanded. So each one took his men who were on duty on the Sabbath, together with those who were off duty on the Sabbath, for Jehoiada the priest had not dismissed the divisions from their duty. Jehoiada the priest then gave the chiefs of hundreds the spears and the bucklers and the circular shields that had belonged to King David, which were in the house of the true God. He then stationed all the people, each with his weapon in hand, from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, by the altar and by the house, all around the king. Then they brought the king's son out, and put on him the crown and the testimony, and made him king. And Jehoiada and his sons anointed him. Then they said, "Long live the king!" When Athaliah heard the sound of the people running and praising the king, she immediately came to the people at the house of Jehovah. Then she saw the king standing there by his pillar at the entrance. The princes and the trumpeters were with the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing and blowing the trumpets, and the singers with musical instruments were leading the praises. At this, Athaliah ripped her garments apart and cried out,
"Conspiracy! Conspiracy!"
But Jehoiada the priest brought out the chiefs of hundreds, those appointed over the army, and said to them,
Take her out from among the ranks, and if anyone follows her, put him to death with the sword.
For the priest had said, "Do not put her to death in the house of Jehovah." So they seized her, and when she reached the entrance of the horse gate of the king's house, they immediately put her to death there. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between himself and all the people and the king, that they would continue as the people of Jehovah. After that, all the people came to the house of Baal and tore it down, and they smashed his altars and his images, and they killed Mattan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Then Jehoiada put the oversight of the house of Jehovah in the hands of the priests and the Levites, whom David had assigned in divisions over the house of Jehovah, to offer up the burnt sacrifices of Jehovah, according to what is written in the law of Moses, with rejoicing and with song, as directed by David. He also stationed the gatekeepers by the gates of the house of Jehovah, so that no one unclean in any respect could enter. He now took the chiefs of hundreds, the nobles, the rulers of the people, and all the people of the land, and escorted the king down from the house of Jehovah. Then they came through the upper gate to the king's house, and seated the king on the throne of the kingdom. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, for they had put Athaliah to death with the sword. Chapter 24. Jehoash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah from Beersheba. Jehoash continued doing what was right in Jehovah's eyes all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Jehoiada chose 2 wives for him, and he became father to sons and daughters. Afterward, it was the heart's desire of Jehoash to renovate the house of Jehovah. So he gathered the priests and the Levites together and said to them,
Go out to the cities of Judah and collect money from all Israel to repair the house of your God from year to year, and you should act quickly in the matter.
But the Levites did not act quickly. So the king called Jehoiada the chief and said to him,
Why have you not required the Levites to bring in from Judah and Jerusalem the sacred tax ordered by Moses, the servant of Jehovah, the sacred tax of the congregation of Israel, for the tent of the testimony? For the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken into the house of the true God, and they had used all the holy things of the house of Jehovah for the Baals.
Then, at the king's order, a chest was made and placed outside at the gate of the house of Jehovah. After that, a proclamation was issued throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring to Jehovah the sacred tax that Moses, the servant of the true God, had imposed on Israel in the wilderness. All the princes and all the people rejoiced, and they kept bringing contributions and dropping them into the chest until it was full. Whenever the Levites brought the chest in to be turned over to the king, and they saw that there was a great deal of money in it, the secretary of the king and the commissioner of the chief priest would come and empty the chest, and then they would take it back to its place. That was what they did from day to day, and they gathered money in abundance. Then the king and Jehoiada would give it to those supervising the work of the service of Jehovah's house, and they would hire the stone cutters and the craftsmen for renovating Jehovah's house, and also workers in iron and copper to repair Jehovah's house. And those supervising the work got it started, and the repair work progressed under their supervision, and they restored the house of the true God to its proper condition and reinforced it. And as soon as they finished, they brought the money that was left over to the king and Jehoiada, and they used it to make utensils for the house of Jehovah, utensils for the ministry and for making offerings, and cups and utensils of gold and of silver. And they would offer up burnt sacrifices at the house of Jehovah regularly, all the days of Jehoiada. When Jehoiada was old and satisfied with years, he died. He was 130 years old at his death. So they buried him in the city of David along with the kings, because he had done good in Israel with respect to the true God and his house. After Jehoiada's death, the princes of Judah came and bowed down to the king, and the king listened to them. They abandoned the house of Jehovah, the God of their forefathers, and began serving the sacred poles and the idols, so that God's anger came against Judah and Jerusalem because of their guilt. He kept sending prophets among them to bring them back to Jehovah, and they kept warning them, but they refused to listen. God's Spirit came upon Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada the priest, and he stood above the people and said to them,
This is what the true God says. Why are you violating the commandments of Jehovah? You will not be successful. Because you have abandoned Jehovah, he will in turn abandon you.
But they conspired against him and stoned him at the king's order in the courtyard of Jehovah's house. Thus King Jehoash did not remember the loyal love that his father Jehoiada had shown toward him, and he killed his son, who said as he was dying,
May Jehovah see to it and call you to account.
At the beginning of the year, the Syrian army came up against Jehoash, and they invaded Judah and Jerusalem. Then they did away with all the princes of the people, and they sent all their spoil to the king of Damascus. For although the invading Syrian army had a small number of men, Jehovah handed over to them a very large army, because they had abandoned Jehovah, the God of their forefathers. So they executed judgment on Jehoash. And when they withdrew from him, for they left him severely wounded, his own servants conspired against him because he had shed the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest. They killed him on his own bed. So he died, and they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the burial places of the kings. These were the conspirators against him: Zabad the son of Shimeath the Ammonitess, and Jehozabad the son of Shimrith the Moabitess. Regarding his sons and the many pronouncements against him, and the renovation of the house of the true God, all these things are recorded in the writings of the book of the Kings. And his son Amaziah became king in his place. Chapter 25. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadan of Jerusalem. He continued to do what was right in Jehovah's eyes, but not with a complete heart. As soon as he had the kingdom firmly in his control, He killed his servants who had killed his father, the king. But he did not put their sons to death, for he acted in harmony with what is written in the law, in the book of Moses, where Jehovah commanded, fathers should not die for their sons, and sons should not die for their fathers, but each one should die for his own sin. And Amaziah gathered Judah together and had them stand according to the paternal houses, by the chiefs of thousands and by the chiefs of hundreds, for all Judah and Benjamin. He registered them from 20 years old and up, and he found them to be 300,000 trained warriors to serve in the army, able to handle the lance and the large shield. Further, he hired from Israel 100,000 mighty warriors for 100 silver talents. But a man of the true God came to him, saying,
O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for Jehovah is not with Israel, not with any of the Ephraimites. But go by yourself, act, and be courageous in battle. Otherwise, the true God could cause you to stumble before an enemy, for God has the power to help and to cause stumbling.
At this Amaziah said to the man of the true God,
But what about the 100 talents that I have given to the troops of Israel?
The man of the true God replied,
Jehovah has the means to give you much more than that.
So Amaziah dismissed the troops that had come to him from Ephraim, sending them to their own place. However, they were very angry with Judah, so they returned to their own place in the heat of anger. Then Amaziah took courage and led his own troops to the valley of
I'm going to let this play on. I have to take the dog out to go potty. Oh my gosh. There we go.
And he struck down 10,000 men of Seir, and the men of Judah captured 10,000 alive. So they brought them to the top of the crag and threw them down from the top of the crag, and they were all dashed to pieces. But the members of the troop whom Amaziah had sent back from accompanying him to the war were making raids on the cities of Judah, from Samaria clear to Beth-horon. They struck down 3,000 of them and took much spoil. But after Amaziah returned from striking down the Edomites, he brought the gods of the men of Seir and set them up for himself as gods. And he began to bow down before them and to make sacrificial smoke to them. So Jehovah grew very angry with Amaziah, and he sent a prophet who said to him,
Why are you following the people's gods that did not rescue their own people out of your hand?
As he spoke to him, the king said,
Did we appoint you as an advisor to the king? Stop! Why should they strike you down?
Then the prophet quit, but he added,
I know that God has decided to bring you to ruin because you have done this and you have not listened to my advice.
After consulting with his advisors, King Amaziah of Judah sent a message to Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, son of Jehu, the king of Israel, saying,
Come, let us confront each other in battle.
King Jehoash of Israel sent this message to King Amaziah of Judah.
The thorny weed in Lebanon sent a message to the cedar in Lebanon. Give your daughter to my son as a wife. However, a wild beast of Lebanon passed by and trampled down the thorny weed. You have said, Look, I have struck down Edom. So your heart has become arrogant, wanting to be glorified. But now stay in your own house. Why should you provoke disaster and fall, bringing Judah down with you?
But Amaziah did not listen, for this was from the true God, to give them into the hand of the enemy, because they had followed the gods of Edom. So King Jehoash of Israel went up, and he and King Amaziah of Judah confronted each other in battle at Beth-shemesh, which belongs to Judah. Judah was defeated by Israel, so each one fled to his home. King Jehoash of Israel captured King Amaziah of Judah, son of Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, at Beth-shemesh. Then he brought him to Jerusalem and made a breach in the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits. He took all the gold and the silver and all the articles that were found in the house of the true God with Obed-Edom and in the treasuries of the king's house, as well as hostages. Then he returned to Samaria. Amaziah, the son of Jehoash, the king of Judah, lived for 15 years after the death of Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, the king of Israel. As for the rest of the history of Amaziah, from beginning to end, look, is it not written in the book of the kings of Judah and of Israel? From the time that Amaziah turned away from following Jehovah, they formed a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent men after him to Lachish and put him to death there. So they carried him back on horses and buried him with his forefathers in the city of Judah. Chapter 26. Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in place of his father Amaziah. He rebuilt Eloth and restored it to Judah after the king was laid to rest with his forefathers. Uzziah was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jecoliah of Jerusalem. He continued to do what was right in Jehovah's eyes, just as his father Amaziah had done. And he kept searching for God in the days of Zechariah, who taught him to fear the true God. During the time he was searching for Jehovah, the true God made him prosper. He went out and fought against the Philistines and broke through the wall of Gath, the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod. Then he built cities.
Hey, Jenny. Yeah, she had to go doo-doo. Jenny, how you feeling today? Yeah, she's better now. I can just type it in. Come on, play.
He's in the territory of Ashdod and among the Philistines. The true God continued to help him against the Philistines, against the Arabians who were dwelling in Gerbaal, and against the Meunim. The Ammonites began to give tribute to Uzziah. His fame eventually spread as far as Egypt, for he became extremely powerful. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem by the corner gate, the valley gate, and the buttress, and he fortified them. Further, he built towers in the wilderness and dug many cisterns, for he had a great deal of livestock. He also did so in the Shephelah and on the plain. He had farmers and vine dressers in the mountains and in Carmel, for he loved agriculture. Moreover, Uzziah came to have an army equipped for war. They would go out on military campaigns organized in divisions. They were numbered and registered by Jael the secretary and Maaseiah the officer under the command of Hananiah, one of the king's princes. The entire number of the heads of the paternal houses who were over these mighty warriors was 2,600. The armed forces under their command numbered 307,500 men ready for war, a powerful military force to support the king against the enemy. Uzziah equipped the entire army with shields, lances, helmets, coats of mail, bows, and sling stones. Further, in Jerusalem, he made engines of war designed by engineers. They were set on the towers and on the corners of the walls, and could shoot arrows and large stones. So his fame spread far and wide, for he received tremendous help, and he became strong. However, as soon as he was strong, his heart became haughty to his own ruin, and he acted unfaithfully against Jehovah his God by entering the temple of Jehovah to burn incense on the altar of incense. Immediately Azariah the priest and 80 other courageous priests of Jehovah went in after him. They confronted King Uzziah and said to him,
"It is not proper for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to Jehovah. It is only the priests who should burn incense, for they are the descendants of Aaron, those who have been sanctified. Go out from the sanctuary, for you have acted unfaithfully, and you will receive no glory from Jehovah God for this."
But Uzziah, who had a censer in his hand to burn incense, became enraged. And during his rage against the priests, leprosy broke out on his forehead in the presence of the priests, in the house of Jehovah, next to the altar of incense. When Azariah the chief priest and all the priests turned toward him, they saw that he had been stricken with leprosy in his forehead. So they rushed him out of there, and he himself hurried out, because Jehovah had struck him. King Uzziah remained a leper until the day of his death, and he kept staying in a separate house as a leper, for he had been excluded from the house of Jehovah. His son Jotham was in charge of the king's house, judging the people of the land. And the rest of the history of Uzziah, from beginning to end, was recorded by the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amoz. Then Uzziah was laid to rest with his forefathers, and they buried him with his forefathers, but in the burial field that belonged to the kings. For they said, "He is a leper." And his son Jotham became king in his place. Chapter 27.
No.
Jotham was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. He kept doing what was right in Jehovah's eyes, just as his father Uzziah had done, except that he did not invade the temple of Jehovah. But the people were still acting ruinously. He built the upper gate of Jehovah's house, and he did much building on the wall of Ophel. He also built cities in the mountainous region of Judah, and he built fortified places and towers in the wooded areas. He waged war against the king of the Ammonites, and eventually prevailed against them, so that the Ammonites gave him in that year 100 silver talents, 10,000 core measures of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. The Ammonites also paid this to him in the 2nd and 3rd years. So Jotham kept growing strong, for he established his ways before Jehovah his God. As for the rest of the history of Jotham, all his wars and his ways, it is written in the book of the kings of Israel and of Judah. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. Then Jotham was laid to rest with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And his son Ahaz became king in his place. Chapter 28.
Last one.
Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. He did not do what was right in Jehovah's eyes, as David his forefather had done. Instead, he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and he even made metal statues of the Baals. Moreover, he made sacrificial smoke in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burned up his sons in the fire, following the detestable practices of the nations that Jehovah had driven out from before the Israelites. He also kept sacrificing and making sacrificial smoke on the high places, on the hills, and under every luxuriant tree. So Jehovah his God gave him into the hand of the king of Syria, so that they defeated him and carried off a great number of captives and brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hand of the king of Israel, who inflicted on him a great slaughter. For Pekah the son of Remaliah killed in Judah 120,000 in one day, all brave men, because they had abandoned Jehovah, the God of their forefathers. And Zichri, an Ephraimite warrior, killed the king's son Maaseiah, and Azrikam, who was in charge of the palace, and Elkanah, who was second to the king. Moreover, the Israelites took 200,000 of their brothers captive, women, sons, and daughters. They also seized a great deal of spoil, and they took the spoil to Samaria. But a prophet of Jehovah named Oded was there. He went out before the army that was coming to Samaria, and said to them,
"Look, it was because Jehovah, the God of your forefathers, was angry with Judah that he gave them into your hand, and you slaughtered them with a fury that has reached clear to the heavens. And now you intend to make the people of Judah and Jerusalem your male and female servants. Nevertheless, are you not also guilty before Jehovah your God? Now listen to me, and return the captives whom you took from your brothers, for Jehovah's burning anger is against you."
At that, some of the chiefs of the Ephraimites, Azariah the son of Jehohanan, Berechiah the son of Meshillemoth, Jehizkiah the son of Shallum, and Amasa the son of Hadlai, confronted those coming in from the military campaign, and they said to them,
"Do not bring the captives in here, for it will make us guilty before Jehovah. What you intend to do will add to our sins and to our guilt. For our guilt is already great, and there is burning anger against Israel."
So the armed soldiers handed over the captives and the plunder to the princes and the entire congregation. Then the men who had been designated by name rose up and took hold of the captives, and they provided clothes from the spoil for all those among them who were naked. So they clothed them and gave them sandals, food and drink, and oil for their skin. Furthermore, they transported the feeble on donkeys and brought them to their brothers in Jericho, the city of palm trees. After that, they returned to Samaria. At that time, King Ahaz asked the kings of Assyria for help. And once again, the Edomites invaded and attacked Judah and carried off captives. The Philistines also made a raid on the cities of the Shephelah and the Negeb of Judah, and captured Beth-Shemesh, Aijalon, Gederoth, Soko and its dependent towns, Timnah and its dependent towns, and Gimzo and its dependent towns. And they settled there. Jehovah humbled Judah because of King Ahaz of Israel, for he had let Judah go unrestrained, resulting in great unfaithfulness toward Jehovah. King Tilgath-Pilneser of Assyria eventually came against him and caused him distress rather than strengthening him. For Ahaz had stripped the house of Jehovah and the house of the king and the houses of the princes and made a gift to the king of Assyria. But it was of no help to him. And during his time of distress, King Ahaz acted even more unfaithfully toward Jehovah. he began to sacrifice to the gods of Damascus that had defeated him. And he went on to say,
Because the gods of the kings of Syria are helping them, I will sacrifice to them, so that they may help me.
but they caused him and all Israel to stumble. Furthermore, Ahaz collected the utensils of the house of the true God. He then cut to pieces the utensils of the house of the true God, closed the doors of the house of Jehovah, and made altars for himself in every corner of Jerusalem. And in all the cities of Judah, he made high places for making sacrificial smoke to other gods. And he offended Jehovah, the God of his forefathers. As for the rest of his history, all his dealings from beginning to end, there it is written in the book of the kings of Judah and of Israel. Then Ahaz was laid to rest with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city, in Jerusalem, for they did not bring him into the burial places of the kings of Israel. And his son Hezekiah became king in his place.
And that is it.
Chapter 29.
No. Maybe tomorrow. Do you have any verse requests, Jenny? It's Mandela. 3/4 of it is one space. So I'm closing it off to make a 1, 2, 3 spaces. Actually, no, many spaces. So. No? Well, I'm going to say this one. For the word of God is alive and powerful. It is sharpest than a sharpest two-edged sword, cutting between soul and spirit, cutting between a joint and marrow. It exposes innermost thoughts and desires. I skipped a word. It exposes our innermost thoughts and desires. I think it's done. I will pick a verse and I'll have it uploaded ASAP. I already had my breakfast, so I'm good to go to whatever I want to do. Today's Mandela Monday. I will be live later on. So, I love you, Jenny. I hope you feel better very soon. They will find out what is going on. Tell them to find out what's going on. You eat it. So I will see you later. I love you, girl. Love, don't judge, and don't hold grudges. Peace out.